Welcome to Shaq's house. Shaq's house. That's our Shaq. You're now in Shaq's house. Welcome to Shaq's house.
What's up, Shaq Housers? How you doing? It's your boy, the one and only Shaq House here. Oh yeah, look at this, my TVA shirt right here. That's right, Time Variance Authority for all time, always. I'm wearing this in honor of the season 2 finale of Loki. That was great. Although I like the season 1 finale better, this one was really good as well too. And it's a reference to what we're going to be talking about, the TVA, the Time Variance Authority. Also, on a side note, I saw the Marvels yesterday. It was messy. I wasn't really feeling it all that much. But try telling that to all these woke idiots out there that think that just because you don't like the movie, that you somehow don't want to contribute to representation. I mean, with the director Nia DaCosta and everything, and the mostly female cast. Or to quote the rapper Common Sense, if I don't like it, I don't like it. That don't mean I'm hating. Yeah, so shout out to all you woke idiots online that like to pick fights under the guise of being socially aware. Fuck out of here. Anyway, this video right here, Time Variance Authority. This is a do-over of the video I did 2 years ago. Check it out for all time, always. But first, some definitions. The Time Variance Authority is an infinitely bureaucratic agency whose function is to monitor all realities throughout the multiverse and to limit temporal incursions. They are of unrevealed origin, presumably self-appointed, and operate out of a dimension called the Null Time Zone, where time cannot be interfered with. The TVA's highest authority is its director, currently a Mr. Alternity, but beneath him are various administrators, each of them clones produced from the same genetic material and thus all identical. This managerial class cloning, it increases efficiency and enables them to promote from within and expeditiously without any friction. These administrators include Mr. Mobius M. Mobius, Mr. Ouroboros, Mr. Paradox, and Mr. Tesseract. However, the most numerous TVA employees are the chronomonitors, literally faceless men in suits who sit before computers that monitor every event of the timeline to which they have been assigned. There's a TVA chronomonitor for every timeline in existence, with one created every time a reality comes into being. For all intents and purposes, chronomonitors are infinite in number, and their workplace, the Hall of Chronometry, is as large as the Omniverse itself. When time travel or reality warps occur within their assigned timeline, a chronomonitor will alert administrators through tachyon impulses, and the administrator determines how to proceed. The TVA also has the power to discontinue timelines, virtually erasing them from history. The enforcers of the TVA are the Minutemen, an army of soldiers produced via cloning and cybernetics and wearing suits of power armor. The Minutemen are led by Justices, temporal patrol officers with the power to time travel and solve the TVA's problems, the most well-known of which is their Justice Peace. The TVA also employs Variance freelance operatives, such as Death's Head, for example. Now, throughout the eternity of its existence, the TVA has accumulated, and continues growing, vast amounts of temporal energy. Retired TVA employees can draw upon that energy for quality of life purposes, living a near immortal life at any time and any location of their choosing in the universe. At the end of time, that is, the final common endpoint for all surviving realities in the multiverse, and just prior to the heat death of the entire multiverse, the very final director of the TVA, known as He Who Remains, is fated to use all of the TVA's accumulated temporal energy to create a triad of hyper-evolving beings known as the Timekeepers. Now, before we get to some fun facts, here's a commercial for you guys.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, do you like urban fiction, crime dramas? Do you like stories in the same vein as George Pelecanos? Then you'll love author Derek Scarzella's novels, The Vicious Game and Knuckle Crack Bone. Though both novels are set in Washington, D.C. during the time of the mid-2000s, they both involve the streets, money, sex, drugs, and compelling characters who have to make decisions about their lives and the forces that pull them back into the alluring world of crime. That's The Vicious Game and Knuckle Crack Bone. Both are available at Amazon. See the links below. Check them out. Alright, here are the fun facts about the TVA. As I mentioned before, all of the administrators are clones of one another, but they all look like one person. They all look like the late Mark Gruenwald, Marvel editor-in-chief and writer, and it's a nod to him being an anal continuity nut. Now, the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, that was his idea. And given the TVA's tongue-in-cheek nature, they're really a satirical commentary on Marvel's editorial structure. Now, the Marvel multiverse is awfully big, but who's supposed to keep track of all those different timelines? Well, in a meta sense, it's the editors at Marvel who are supposed to do this. However, this task, it translated into a parody within the comics, in the form of the Time Variance Authority. And one of their directors, Mr. Alternity, who debuted in a Fantastic Four annual back in the 90s, he resembles Tom DeFalco, who was Marvel's editor-in-chief at the time. And another thing, they've also changed the way that Mr. Mobius and all of his clones now look. They've gone from ineffective white mid-level retail managers to what looks like Mexican cartel members. Or Indians, or who knows. Clearly whoever drew this was taking some kind of artistic license with things. The TVA, they're basically time police who try to keep time in order, but they bungle things on more than one occasion. You remember the time bubble, or as Kang the Conqueror called it, the bubble at the heart of time? Well, that was on the TVA. Let me explain. You see, in reality 8810, the variant of Galactus from that world, he was constantly hungry, so he created a black hole to bring more matter and energy to him and it. But both of them got so big that they began to warp time and space around it. So the TVA were sent in to investigate, and they created a bubble around them. A bubble that stretched 15 years in every direction. But that only made things worse, because the time bubble then extended across all realities, effectively blocking any time travel past it in either direction. Now, the TVA have had dealings with the Fantastic Four, the She-Hulk, and even the Watcher during the Timequake storyline. And also, even though the TVA are treated as something of a joke within the comics, they're more fleshed out in the MCU. You see there, the TVA employees, they're not clones, but are actually variants plucked from branching timelines that were discontinued by the TVA. They were then brainwashed and given a new set of memories and names. Take Casey, for example. He works as a filing clerk for the TVA, and he says that he's lived his whole life behind a desk. He's happy, helpful, and curious. But in reality, so to speak, he's originally from a branching timeline of 1962, and he's a variant of Frank Morris, you know, the famous escapee from the Alcatraz prison who was never found, and now we know why. Also, the Loki series where this takes place also has a holographic AI named Miss Minutes, basically a female anthropomorphic clock with a southern accent, access to all the TVA, and a secretly sadistic evil personality. The Loki series also had an animated edutainment video about the multiverse and how the Timekeepers are responsible for the creation of the TVA, not the other way around. Now, the Timekeepers, they were initially portrayed as benevolent temporal beings whose goal is to preserve what's called the sacred timeline. However, they were later revealed to be robotic figureheads, all part of the propaganda designed by the real creator of the TVA, He Who Remains. You see, in the MCU, the universe was once a mess of different branching timelines, each one having variants of this man, Nathaniel Richards II. Now, some of his really bad variants, they battled to conquer the other timelines, but one good variant, he ended things. He streamlined everything into a single predestined timeline, the sacred timeline. And then he created the bureaucratic TVA to prevent any more branches that could potentially lead to a variant of himself, leaving only him. Hence the title, He Who Remains. Also, He Who Remains, like his counterpart in the comics, lives in a castle on an asteroid, the Citadel at the End of Time as both are called. And from that vantage point, the MCU's He Who Remains has seen everything and really does know everything. Also, given that the TVA have yet to have an origin in the comics, It's possible that the Timekeepers are indeed responsible for their creation, albeit in a looped, paradoxical fashion. But if you want to see more information about the Timekeepers, check out my Timequake video in the link's description below. Yes, the TVA and the comics, they need an origin. I mean, it's not fair that the MCU has really expanded upon them and their technology. I mean, the last 2 seasons of Loki, they have been great. Alright folks, that's what I got for my TVA video, for this do-over of the TVA video. Come next video, I'm going to be back on my Marvel X-Men mutant shit. So check in then. I hope you have a good week. Later, folks.
Mansion, apartment.
Shack, house. Yes!